All right, good evening, everyone. We are here tonight and appreciative of our audience and attendees. We are very interested in an information session to be provided to those who are with us in the room, as well as those that are participating online. Welcome to CPS Energy's headquarters. This is where we actually have our board meetings. We actually have it in a room right across the way every month, and we also have special meetings, but it gives you a sense of what our current building is. So I want to welcome you and thank you for coming. I would like to, excuse me, make sure though that we have the ability to have our trustees talk. We do have our chair, Dr. Mackey, on the phone, and I want to check his connection and give him an opportunity to make some comments. And I'm also will be asking Trustee Ed Kelly to talk for a few minutes and to help me welcome all of you for tonight. So can we test the connection?
Dr. Mackey, I believe you're on mute, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gold-Williams. It's a pleasure to have so many people that are interested in this position, and I want to thank you all and welcome you all to this presentation this evening, and that this is a great board, a great company that has a lot of things, a lot of business and producing electric and gas for this community. You know, for your interest to be a part of this, again, I want to thank you all for taking the interest to and welcome you all to be a part of this. Ms. Cole-Williams she made a great presentation, and at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Trustee Ed Kelly.
Well, thank you. Dr. Mackey, thank you so much for your comments. And I know that Dr. Mackey planned to be here this evening, but he had some other things that he had to take care of. But he has been an incredible leader for this board of trustees. And on behalf of the board, I want to welcome each and every one of you here. I've had the honor of serving on the board of trustees now for 10 years. And my term is expiring in January of this coming year. And so it's appropriate that we start looking carefully at a replacement for me in my Northwest Quadrant. I can tell you that this company, in the 10 years that I've had the opportunity to be a part of the board, has just made outstanding strides in so many different ways. And I want to compliment our CEO, Paula Gold-Williams, for an incredible job that she has done. And if you look at her history of success during her tenure, it has been incredible. And so I am honored to be a part of it. I know you're going to find this to be an interesting session, so I won't take any more of your time, but as we go through it, I would suggest that you feel free to ask questions, because I think it's important that if you're interested in this position, which incidentally is a very, very challenging but fun position, and if you're interested in it, I think as much information as you can possibly give would be helpful. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to our CEO.
Thank you. I'm going to keep it going here, and I'm trying to look for Blaze. Ah, there you go. Are you all mic'd up, ready to go? Okay. So for those of the attendees that are here and for staff, we typically have a safety message at every single meeting. We think safety is one of our key pillars. And so it is common for us to have that, and Blaze is one of our best to give a safety message. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Paula. And thank you, board members. Thank you, everybody, for coming. For today's safety message, we are just going to talk about our evacuation process. This is a new building to us. This is a new building to our guests. So for if you hear an alarm, please listen to it. It will give you kind of some guidance on what the alarm is for, fire, for anything else. And With that, our primary evacuation doors are those two doors there. You would take it to the left and you would be following a CPS Energy employee. We will be escorting you out. Take a left, going down the sidewalk, and we'll be going to the southwest corner of our parking lot. There is an emergency assembly sign there. If we cannot get there, we will be taking a right across the bridge to go to the AT&T parking lot. That is our secondary evacuation site. If we can't get out these doors, we will be going out the main entrance door that y'all came in, out the scaffold walkway into the emergency assembly area. We are not, I do want to mention, we will not be going out this door. There is an exit here. We will not be going out there. There is construction, there's a crane, so it is blocked off, so please do not go that way. I need to check my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Our security team will be monitoring the situation. If anything does happen, we will have CPS with y'all. We do have employees that are trained in first aid if there is anything that needs it. With that, is there any questions for our evacuation process? Thank you, Paula.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Garcia, and I am Vice President of Governmental Relations, Regulatory Affairs, and Public Policy at CPS Energy. And I have the pleasure tonight of providing some general background information and maybe current information about who we are here at CPS Energy. On the next slide, that will actually provide the agenda items that I'm going to cover. I'm going to speak a little bit about people first and what that is for us at CPS Energy. I'm going to talk to our guiding pillars. I'm going to talk a little bit about our early history at CPS Energy, how we came to what we are today. I'm going to speak a bit about our business model and how we're structured as a utility. I'm going to talk a bit about data points and numbers by who we are. I'm also going to highlight some customer assistance programs, which hopefully are very timely information for us right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about our budget, which our board certainly has a lot of purview and oversight of. And I'm going to talk about an aspect of our budget, which is the general fund transfer, or what we call city payment. And I'm going to speak at the end a little bit about our structure. I have a lot to go over in a little bit of time, and I know I have additional speakers after me. So I will try to move through this swiftly, but hopefully with some good information points. So on this slide, people first. So under the leadership of our CEO, President and CEO Paula Gold-Williams, we have a people first philosophy here at CPS Energy. And what that means is that we keep our employees, our customers, and our community front of mind. And it's also how we think about the guidance that's provided to us in how we serve our community. I wanted to give a brief example about this. At the onset of the pandemic, it was really important for CPS Energy to protect its employees, keep them safe and out of harm's way from the pandemic, and equally as such, protect our customers. And so we had energy advisors from our call center who normally handle calls in a group setting, handle issues with customers, actually rapidly turn their homes into satellite locations. And so it enabled us through a people first philosophy to protect customers, protect our employees, and continue to provide the vital service that we do here for the community. And on the next slide, I wanted to highlight our guiding pillars. We have 6 pillars presented here on this slide. I'll just highlight them quickly: reliability, customer affordability, security, safety, environmental responsibility, and resiliency. And they all rest on a strong foundation of financial responsibility. And at CPS, we use these guiding pillars to push all our decisions through. It helps us make sure that our decisions meet these criteria and are also balanced throughout. On the next slide, I have some fun facts to share about CPS Energy. We've actually, in one form or another, been in this community for a very, very long time, dating back to actually 1860, when the natural gas business was initiated. In 1917, we then became the San Antonio Public Service Company. In addition to the gas network, we introduced power plants, and we actually operated streetcars. And then in 1942, the city of San Antonio purchased the utility at a purchase price of $34 million. And to date, we have been San Antonio's municipally owned utility ever since. And on the next slide, I wanted to highlight municipally owned utility. There are 72 municipally owned utilities in Texas, and they are structured in various ways depending on from one to the other. At CPS Energy is what we call a fully integrated utility. And what that means is that for the most part, we own and operate our generating power facilities. We do own and operate the wires and the poles, how we transmit power. And we also directly serve and bill retail customers for the energy service that they use. On the next slide, so talked a little bit about CPS Energy right here, right now in the fully integrated model. But from a broader view, I wanted to also mention that we are a participant in Ercot. And so Ercot is an acronym for the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And it's actually two things. It's a geographical area, which you can see here on the slide, and it's a geographical area within the state where there is a shared connected transmission system. And that transmission system emits power to customers. The other thing that Ercot is a nonprofit corporation that manages the grid and the sale of electricity over it. And it has some oversight. Let me correct myself. The Public Utility Commission has some oversight over Ercot, and this also has some laws that govern it. And on the next slide, talk a little bit here about what does Ercot do? Well, Ercot manages the flow of electric power to millions of Texas customers, representing about 90% of the state's electric load. It's a very highly complex and highly interconnected system. And that's one of the things we really wanted to share today, is that with every utility that is in the Ercot system, all the wires, the transmission, it is all interconnected. CPS Energy does participate in the energy market, and we're buying and selling power every day. This allows us to buy power at times when we may need it, and it also allows us to sell power at times when we have excess. And when we do have times of excess power and we can sell it, we'll use those revenues to reduce the overall cost of electricity to our customers. And so the next slide, from 1860 to where we are today, this slide provides some really great data points, and I'm just going to highlight a few. We are the largest municipally owned utility in Texas, and we are the largest municipally owned electric and natural gas utility in the country, so the combo of electric and natural gas. And it takes 3,000 dedicated employees to run this utility. And we also serve just over 885,000 electric customers and over 367,000 natural gas customers. Again, a combo utility. We're also very proud of our credit ratings, which really does reflect our financial strength. The next slide that we have depicts a number of customer assistance programs that we have. One of the things that we wanted to highlight today that has been front and center for us is that with the onset of COVID, from March of 2020, we immediately went into a status of no disconnects for our customers. Our customers were facing hard times. All of us were impacted in one way or another by COVID. And so CPS Energy placed a moratorium on disconnections. We've also, as part of that, made sure that our customers have access to a variety of financial assistance programs that we have here highlighted. Since June of 2020, we're really proud to say that we have helped customers achieve nearly $32 million of assistance through a lot of these programs. These programs are here. They're available to our community. We do a lot of proactive outreach to make sure that our customers are aware, and we hope that others will share this information too. On the next slide, I wanted to highlight the utility budget. This basically is our approved budget, what we are operating to, and every year our Board of Trustees approves this budget. What's also reflected on this slide are the uses of our revenues as stated by our bond ordinance. One item that I wanted to highlight here, and will actually be further described on the next slide, is the payment that we make to our city owner. On a monthly basis, CPS Energy transfers up to 14% of its gross revenues to the city of San Antonio. This equates to roughly 30% of the city's general operating budget. And what it does do for them is it really helps for funding of local services such as fire and police, as well as construction and maintenance of facilities like streets, parks, and libraries. And on the next slide, this is a slide that speaks to our governance. And there are a couple of different aspects here that we want to highlight. The first being, of course, our Board of Trustees. What you all are here today or online to hear is our true governing, the body that we go to for approval for most things. There's a couple of, well, actually 4 things that we go to City Council for. And so listed there on the slide, we would actually have to take items to City Council if it pertains to rate increases, a change in rates. If we have, for any reason, to exercise eminent domain or condemnation, which we work really hard not to have to do. We have a good working relationship with our customers and the folks in the community. Also for any type of bond approval, going out for bonds, and then confirmation of our Board of Trustees. The other items that we have up here is our Citizens Advisory Committee. The Citizens Advisory Committee is made up of 15 individuals, some appointed by City Council and others that are appointed by the CAC themselves. And they really do offer us a wonderful two-way source of communication. We provide information to them about our initiatives, a lot of the ongoings at our utility, and the Citizens Advisory Committee helps us in thinking through those programs and providing input back to us. So again, another wonderful way of two-way communication. And then we also just recently, one last item here I wanted to highlight, just this year, CPS Energy established a rate advisory committee, and it is made up of 21 individuals. The rate advisory committee is off and running. We are holding meetings every other Thursday. In fact, we have one tomorrow. And the rate advisory committee meetings are streamed live. And the committee is taking a look at right now kind of an education process about how rates are designed at the utility, and is charged with helping us understand how we might redesign certain rates going forward. So again, another way for us as a utility to receive input from the community. And then this last slide here breaks down a little bit more of the governance. This actually shows what items go before the board in terms of planned uses of revenue. I won't actually read through them, but hopefully it gives you a sense of what items actually the board would actually go through and provide approval. And at that point, I think I've made it through my slides, and certainly offer any questions. And if not, then I think our next presenter is Shanna Ramirez, and she's going to talk a bit about the roles and responsibilities of our Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Shanna Ramirez. I am our Chief Legal and Ethics Officer. I am also our General Counsel, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Board Secretary. So I'm going to walk you all through some of the trustee roles and responsibility. I have had the pleasure of sitting with our trustees, going through these together. So it really is a wonderful opportunity to talk to you all that have interest in this area. If we could go to the next slide. Real quickly, an agenda. We'll go with the board overview. I'll walk through some of the responsibilities, what the terms are, the role qualifications and requirements, time requirements, an understanding of what the Northwest Quadrant is, and the application deadline. We can go to the next slide. First, it's a board overview. The board is composed of trustees from each of our 4 quadrants. We also have our mayor on as an ex officio member. New members are selected by the existing board members and then confirmed by city council. All 5 members are voting positions. And as Kathy went through just a little bit earlier, the board really is the governing body for our enterprise, for all of San Antonio's gas and electric utility. Really, it's their responsibility to ensure the future viability and the prosperity of CPS Energy. They're also in charge of ensuring that there's proper oversight to management, and they're authorized to make the rules and the policies that govern all of our gas and electric service, including customer payment requirements. We can go to the next slide. Laid out here are the responsibilities, and although I know you all can read and I hate reading to you, these are important, so I'm looking down every once in a while to make sure I've got it right. It really is a partnership in leadership with the CEO, the president and CEO, Paula Gold-Williams, in developing and articulating what the company's vision is going to be for our community. As a trustee, you'll review and approve management's strategic and business plans and make sure that they're achieving that vision you've agreed upon. They establish and affirm policies that promote effective stewardship and allocation of the company's resources. Again, Kathy just walked you through what some of that process looks like. You're there to ensure that management is exercising good succession planning. You're selecting, supporting, and developing performance standards for the president and CEO, and you're responsible for the oversight and the communication with the president and CEO about that performance. We can go to the next slide. You review and approve large financial transactions. Again, I hate to keep referring back to Kathy, but she did go through what some of those look like. You exercise appropriate oversight regarding risk mitigation, making sure that we are taking care to close those gaps that we identify. You're setting the tone for the ethical behavior that's expected to preserve public confidence in our enterprise. We always serve the customer first among all of the various stakeholders that we have. We follow all applicable laws, and it really is your role as a trustee to ensure that you're promoting trust from within and among our stakeholders. I think it goes without saying, but I always like to stress, as Trustee Kelly did at the beginning, this is really something that you are doing because you have a strong civic responsibility and that you are really looking for a way to serve your community. We can go to the next slide. In terms of the term that you serve, each trustee is appointed to serve a 5-year term and is eligible to serve 1 consecutive term for a total of 10 years. Now, during that time, there is an assumption that the chair rotates among the trustees for terms of 2 to 4 years. We can go to the next slide. When we talk about what the role qualifications and requirements are, there are some that are simply that you must meet. These are pretty clear. You must be a U.S. citizen. You must be a permanent resident of Bexar County. And in this case, you must reside in the Northwest Quadrant of CPS Energy's service area. There is a fantastic way to confirm that that is where you live on our website. There is a quadrant map. You can simply put in your address and confirm that that is where you live. You also have to agree to comply with the city's ethics code, which limits business dealings in some respects with board members and his or her immediate family. It also limits some business dealings that you have with the city and with CPS Energy. The idea there is simply to prevent both actual, potential, and perceived conflicts of interest. You also have to maintain a CPS Energy account in a current status. We can go to the next slide. Here's a little bit more about the preferred qualifications. The trustee must possess a strong business acumen and have experience with and have participated in responsibilities so that you can provide input regarding really complex management and strategic directions. We've talked a little bit tonight about being a fully integrated both gas and electric utility service for our entire community. So there are a lot of complex business issues that we go through regularly with our trustees. The preferred education background is set out here, certain bachelor's degree, master's of business administration, or master's degree in finance or public administration or public policy. And here's an experience profile, again, 10 to 15 years in one or more of the following. And you'll note that some of these are highly beneficial, not required, and there is a pretty large variety there. The idea simply being that you have both the business knowledge and acumen to participate in these discussions. We can go to the next slide. When we talk about time requirements, and we will have time for a Q&A later, so you can double check this with our chair and with Trustee Kelly to make sure that I'm being honest here, but it's at least 20 hours per month that you can expect to spend on board business. Some of the things that time will include is regular board meetings. Those are monthly, generally held on the last Monday of each month at 1 p.m., except during the months of May, November, and December. Special board meetings that are called as needed. I think that there have been years where we have had not a lot of need for a lot of special board meetings, and some years where there have been a need for a lot of special board meetings. So that tends to vary. Quarterly committee meetings, group and individual work sessions as needed by the trustees, and other special events that we ask our trustees to attend. There is travel to conferences as needed. Again, that has not occurred so much in the last few years, but we do look forward to it happening again sometime. The trustees do also receive materials from management and general support from board relations, so you're not out there alone. But it is some time and it is materials that you're going to need to go through. You will note that there is a reference to the municipal city code at the bottom. Missing 3 consecutive meetings or attendance below 50% on an annual basis is a basis to remove a trustee. We are unable to proceed without a quorum in open meetings, so we do ask that all of our trustees make their best efforts to attend. We can go to the next slide. Here is a visual representation of that northwest quadrant that we are looking for a trustee right now. And again, there is the link that is on the page. You can find this on our website. And again, enter an address, your address, the address of a friend if you want to talk them into, into serving. That is there. You just enter it and you can see if you live in quadrant 1. We can go to the next slide. All right, lastly, the application deadline. The deadline to submit the application is Tuesday, August 31st at 5 p.m. We encourage everyone to submit their applications electronically on our website, but if you would not like to do that and you would prefer to get a paper application, please let any of the CPS representatives that are here today know. Danae Myers is in the back in a blue dress, and I know she has paper copies. So if you would like a paper copy, please let her or any of the CPS representatives know. I think that is it for me. So I'm going to pause now. We will have a Q&A session at the end for general questions, but I do want to pause if anyone had questions on the materials that I just presented. Not seeing any then, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Almaraz, who is going to give us a Flex Power Bundle update next.
All right, good evening. I'm Frank Almaraz. I'm the Chief Power, Sustainability, and Business Development Officer for CPS Energy. And as Shannon mentioned, I'm going to give you an update on our Flex Power Bundle. Get get oriented here. So here the agenda supports that discussion. The first is to talk about the decarbonization and the evolution of our fleet and how we're moving along down the pathway that our president and CEO set us upon in 2018 with the evolution of the flexible path. We'll talk about the Flex Power Bundle, which is the next step in our flexible path, and give you an update on the timeline of where we stand on that Flex Power Bundle. Next slide, please. So our flexible path is a journey that we are on, and it is to adopt the technologies of the future and move toward a decarbonized fleet, and to do it safely, affordably, and reliably, to make that transition to lower and non-emitting resources of the future. On the bottom left, you can see a fossil power plant. It's labeled the past because it used to be all there was, monolithic fossil fueled plants that powered our community, and they served us well for a long time. But we are transitioning. Some of that is CPS Energy is doing. Some of it is simply decisions that our customers have made and where technology is driving us to be more cost effective for our community and to achieve the other guiding pillars that are important to us. In the middle, you see that it says transitioning to innovation, and that is the present. That today's grid is not anymore the monolithic plants of the past. It is that, but it's also two-way flows of power by people who have solar on their rooftops, people who are putting energy storage on their homes, owners of electric vehicles, community solar, plus all of the wind and solar that is on our grid at the utility scale. In the future, it's hard to say over what time frame this is going to materialize, but I think we all kind of look forward to a day where it will be something very different. Our customers will have available to them other technologies. They'll demand different types of generation, and we're going to be there to serve them as our community's full service provider of energy solutions and services. That the strategy to achieve all that is the flexible path. And as I said, the Flex Power Bundle is the next step on that path. Next slide, please. As I said, up in the top left corner of this slide, you can see that in 2018, we launched the flexible path. And there's been a lot of activity since then. The closing of the JT Dealey power plants that occurred at the end of 2018 were a decade in the making, and lots of planning and effort it took to transition to that point. But at that time, we were able to retire those units. In 2019, we initiated our first solar plus storage project. At that time, we achieved the ranking of being #1 in solar and have continued through that process of the flexible path to make an announcement that we would in fact have something called the Flex Power Bundle. We talked to the community about it to understand what the composition of that bundle should look like, what the priorities of our community are, and ultimately reflected that in the launching of a global market moving RFP in early 2020. We'll talk just a little bit more about the component pieces of that RFP in just a second. As you can see, our path continued, and as we get here, we are in 2021, all things flex. We've got flexible path. We did something which is fairly unprecedented, which is to publish a really comprehensive document describing aspects of our generation fleet and about how we think about the future, and put that right on our website. It's information that the community wanted to see. We ultimately found a way to produce it in a way that won't impair our competitiveness out in the market, but to become remain as transparent as we possibly could be. And so just as an aside, if you have interest in looking at it, it's out there on our website to go have a look, and I recommend you do. It's really a wealth of information. But as I said, this flexible path continues with the Flex Step, the Flex EV programs, and the Flex Power Bundle, which I'll tell you about a little bit more on the next slide. Our Browning units 1, 2, and 3 are 1960s era technology. They've been workhorses for our community. They've served us really, really well, but they're getting older. They're getting less reliable, costing us more to maintain them, and ultimately will retire of their age at some point. And that some point is coming in the next couple of years. Recently, they've been running mostly during the day, mostly during the summertime. Just as a consequence of their age and the way that we're maintaining them to be most efficient. So we designed our Flex Power Bundle to replace that capacity. There are 3 components to it. The first is up to 900 megawatts of solar, and that's, over on the right, you can see these component parts. Up to 900 megawatts of solar, up to 50 megawatts of energy storage, whether that be batteries or some other kind of energy storage, and up to 500 megawatts of firming capacity. And we originally went out to the market or began to think about going to the market with the idea that we would solicit natural gas. Natural gas has been the technology to beat. It's very effective in lots of ways. It's quick responding. It's low carbon emitting. It has been very inexpensive. But we said, we're going to do this differently. We're going to look at an all source component here for firming and make sure that we are not prejudging the market and that we aren't picking winners and losers from a technology standpoint, which is something we don't want to do. We want to let the market do its thing. So moving on to the next slide. With this Flex Power Bundle, which is a novel way in thinking about procuring our next round of generation resources, we have been very successful. I mentioned that it was a global market moving RFP. It was sent out to many different countries. It was translated to 10 different languages. We had over 600 proposals for projects coming from all over the place. And as we had this fantastic problem. We had so many proposals that we had to design a process that would properly evaluate these on all of the different criteria that we needed to make sure that we're getting the best deal for our community. So we go through several stage gates, and with a priority placement for security. As the global landscape of security changes, we want to be sure that we are doing business with people who view the security of our grid as importantly and hold it in as high of a level of importance as we do. And so we made that a gating item, and that was part of it. Part of it was price. Part of it was the quality of what the product that they would be able to bring to our market. And part of it was how easy of a relationship are we going to have to make sure that this is a long-term relationship, and we want it to really be a good one. The last bit here is that we wanted to evaluate the components of the Flex Power Bundle as a bundle. It's not just words. It's not just, hey, let's get all these different things and we'll procure them all together and call it a bundle. There's a very significant simulation and quantitative aspect of this analysis that says, how do I pick not just the best projects that look the best to me, but putting them through our quantitative process and really looking at them, how they perform together, and really select the project, the portfolio of projects that works best for our community. So we're really proud that we've innovated on that front on this procurement. Next slide, please. There's a designation out there called the Shining Cities, and this is sort of a side benefit. It's not like a primary objective of CPS Energies, but we do in lots of ways like to know how we benchmark, whether that be from a cost of our production in our units to the performance of our distribution system to how we're performing from a Shining City standpoint. We are currently number 5 on the list, which you can see in the table there. This is top 5 cities. This is as of 2019. If nothing else changes, and that's a big caveat because everybody's always in flux, people are adding capacity all the time. But if nothing changed, with an addition of 19 megawatts of additional solar in our community, we move up 1 spot. And as we look, well, and over to the right, you can see that we have about 254 megawatts of what you would call local, within the city limits, solar. We're going to add, we said that if we were to add maybe 10 to 30 megawatts, we would result in something that would move us up a couple spots, maybe up to the fourth spot. Next slide, please. It's been a long road with respect to the Flex Power Bundle. When you do something as big as it has been, as I said, we started, many months ago and got input on how we would even go to market in the first place. And we took that input, we designed the RFP, we went to market, and now we're evaluating those projects. And so as we find ourselves here in August, we are to the point where we've shortlisted, or we're about to shortlist the priority bundle candidates. And we're looking towards a lot of activity here at the end of the year with, as we kind of see here at the September, October, fourth quarter timeframe, be in a position of making the final selections on our Flex Power Bundle. And as I mentioned, along the way, always a primary drivers of looking at the balanced pillars of our guiding pillars to make sure that whatever we do, any big decision that we make, is weighed against all of those altogether for the best overall outcome for our community. So next slide. Shanna talked to you about some critical, important aspects of why we're here today and to talk about what it's like to be a trustee and the things that you might expect. That's all the kind of things that the price to be in the game, but this is the game right here. This is the exciting stuff. So I hope you look at this and say, wow, that's really neat. And are as excited as we are about what we're bringing to our community. And again, appreciate the opportunity to be here and really look forward to seeing you again sometime. So thank you very much. And it looks like Shanna will be coming back up. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. That is the end of the presentations that we have for you, but we do have plenty of time for questions and answers. And for those folks that are attending by Webex, I just want to let you know that the plan is to do the questions and answers for those folks in the room. And I apologize simply because I can see them. And then we will switch so that we can facilitate answering all of the questions that anyone might have that's attending by Webex. So I'm going to pause now and make sure I can see everyone, but then ask if there are any questions about the presentations you saw, about potentially being a trustee, or, hey, you're here, so pretty much anything goes. Oh, I'm sorry, and I should have explained, when you have your hand raised, Blaze will meet you with a microphone so that we can all hear you and so they can pick it up on Webex. And Blaze, the gentleman in the back. Don't hear it. Yes, sir.
Did not know who had their hand raised. Oh, sorry. I'm just curious. I want to thank you all so much for this, and especially the CEO. I remember you on Facebook during the snowvid, so to speak, and that's where I really learned about our diversity in this city, and I'm really impressed with that. I'm wondering how old we power. Has there stigma from the community for that, or is there, how old is that system that we have? That's the first I learned that we had nuclear power in San Antonio. I'm just curious if
That is a great question. I'm going to look to Paula to answer. We like to trick her with our microphones.
Yeah. That unit, we're around the 40-year mark. It's possible because that system is very well maintained. There's a separate operating company down in Matagorda County, and it's a partnership between us, Austin Energy, and NRG. It's possible it may go to 60 years, but right now it's in the 40-year vintage.
have we seen any environmental effects from this? Because I know Europe uses them like crazy. It's kind of a stigma in the US. I think it's because of The Simpsons.
But is there?
Back to to try to hit both of your questions. Yeah, there are some individuals who do not want us to have nuclear power. We don't have as many people concerned about that. I think what's really taken over is concern about coal. So I think in reality, nuclear, as we all know, is non-emitting. And I think when we look at a lot of studies across the globe, we can't hit those emissions targets really without nuclear. So it's had less and less of a focus on from that perspective. And I'm sorry, your second question was?
I would just, have you seen any stigma, I guess, with that? Because I'm
Not as
excited.
much, not as much. I think it was a lot higher. We were at one time looking to expand nuclear back in the 2009 to 2010 timeframe. People really didn't want it expanded. We do look at some work that's being done by the Department of Energy and even in some ways the Department of Defense. There are new technologies coming out around nuclear, and we think again, for us to hit as a nation and a globe those marks of reducing emissions, we still think it's a viable product. It's not currently in our flexible path because we think there's a lot of work to be done, and we do think there will be some people concerned about it. So it's out there, and we're monitoring it. We're running it well. We have a great track record with those units down there. We own about 40%. And we think it's important to be in our portfolio. It helps keep the emissions down for the state. Hey, Frank, is there something you want to add?
Thank you, Paula. The only thing that I would add is that from an environmental standpoint, everything that Paula said is correct. But even more than that, it's one of the nicest bird habitat in the country. I mean, it really is. We were just down there not too long ago, and I think it's something that not everyone gets to experience. But if you're into birding, I mean, it is phenomenal. And they've taken great measures to not only make sure that they're not involved in some kind of accident on the nuclear side, but to be good stewards as well of that, Matagorda Bay and everything. So I think you would be, or one might be surprised at what that, area looks like. It really is a beautiful location.
I don't know that I have any more, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I see our next question.
Thank you. And I'd like to echo his comments. Really appreciate y'all putting together the information. It's very beneficial. I'm certainly interested in CPS and its environment. I'm a novice when it comes to electricity, done a lot of computer data centers and things, but nothing on the scale of this. But the real simple question I have is all of these slides going to be available on the website or something later, or?
Yes, sir. I think that we have some packets here tonight, but then everything will be posted on our website. And again, there will be contact information as well if you have follow-up questions.
Right. Very good.
Absolutely.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Actually, I think they already are online on our website. So yes, sir. And any other information that we come up with, we'll put out there too.
Thank you. Did we have any other questions from the folks here in attendance tonight? I see.
Okay. Follow.
Never give me a microphone. Just kidding. I work full-time. If my company would love for me to do, I work for Health by Design, and I know y'all know that name. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest of any kind. That'll be on my application if I apply. But I'm not looking like this to replace my job. And I know there's like $2,000 a year. Is that what the stipend is? Okay. I was just wondering about that. And so that's all.
Yes, I would say that in the past, well, right, if I even just look at our board right now, I would say that there are members of our board that still work full-time entirely. There are members of the board that I would say are partially retired, but really are working full-time. They just act like they want to be retired. And then I would say that there have been members on the board in the past that are retired, and then they are able to devote a lot of attention to this. So it runs full spectrum in terms of what folks are still doing. We try to work really hard. board relations team, which again is, they're all in the room right now. They will slap me if I identify them and call them out for praise in public, but they do a wonderful job of trying to coordinate calendars, make sure that we can schedule things at times that work for everyone, while still making it accessible to the public, because that's really what we're balancing. But I would not say that a full-time job is in any way an impediment to serving as a board member.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Any other questions here in person? All right, I do not see any. If you change your mind, raise your hand, and I'm sure we can talk Melissa to turning the controls back over to us. But for now, Melissa, I am going to turn it over to you on Webex to field any questions that we have from our Webex attendees.
Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. We have about 4 guests with us tonight, so I'm going to call on you all individually to see if you have any questions. You will have to unmute yourself just as a reminder, and we will start with Mr. Clay Killinger. Mr. Killinger, do you have any questions about the information presented tonight?
Yes, thank you. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the requirements for the financial disclosure report that is required as part of the position? Thank you.
Thank you. And the question was, Mr. Killinger wanted some more information about the financial disclosure form on the application. If somebody could take that. I see Shanna coming back.
Sorry, Melissa, I am back. The financial disclosure, it is a form that is set by the city. I would say that it requires you to disclose the information that they need to determine that you do not have any conflicts under the city's ethics policy. So disclosures, they do ask, though, for information about yourself, about your spouse, about nuclear family members, but it is largely targeted at interests and ownership in businesses that where there might be a potential, perceived, or actual conflict of interest. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that question. We'll go next to Marty Heinrich. Sorry if I butchered that. Do you have any questions, sir? Maybe still on mute. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat as well. So we'll go next to Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, do you have any?
I'm online now.
Oh.
I'm online now. I'm sorry, I didn't see the mute button. Yes, I
All
do.
right, sir, do you have?
I do have one question, and that is, do trustees get contacted directly by the customers?
This is the CEO. It's not common. However, we have a very open community, and I do find that customers will come up. They're very interested in talking to board members, and they do talk and share their experiences. It's not common, but they do that. We do get emails and outreach, and we have a trustee inbox. We share everything that comes through the inbox with all the board members. We help them in the response. We do the heavy lifting, making sure they're okay, and respond on their behalf. But by far, if you become a board member, people will come up to you, customers, vendors, others will engage you in conversation.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right, Mr. Kelly, now we'll go to you, see if you have any questions.
Thank you. I think after my 1.5 years or so on the Citizens Advisory Committee, I think I've had understood all the information that was in the presentation. So at this point, I don't think I have any additional questions, but it's a good presentation and interesting to see the process here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Shanna, we had another guest, Ms. Erevia, who said she didn't have any questions on chat. So there are no other questions from the Webex.
Okay, thank you. I am going to go ahead and turn it over to our President and CEO, Ms. Paula Gold Williams, for some closing comments.
Okay. This time I will stand up a little bit. I want to thank you all again. Maybe I'm biased, but I will say I think this is one of the toughest boards in town. We've been around for a long time. The energy business is very complex. I would love to tell you that we have so many easy issues, but we have actually have a full portfolio. I find it interesting. I find that all the employees here, there are about 3,000 employees. We are very mission driven. We are committed to supplying power to this community. We live here. Our kids go to school here, church, all of that. And so everything we do is really, really passionate from our perspective. And it's a 24/7, 365 business. The technology is complex. The passions around the options are complex. There's just a lot. But I will tell you, again, you just have a sampling of team members. We believe that people who choose to serve on our board are super special. And we spend all the time we can to get to know every single board member, to understand what you're interested in, to explain the business, to make ourselves available. We will have one-on-ones, two-on-ones, group information, anything you need, we will get that for you, because what we want is you want to feel informed, and we want you to feel like you have a basis to make decisions and conclusions and give us guidance and input. And so thank you for being interested. Thanks again to Trustee Kelly. I think you've served a little bit more than 10 years because he finished a term of someone who could not. So he's really done his time in service, and it comes to work, does lots of things outside of CPS Energy, but when he comes here, he comes informed and ready to go and energized and takes this really, really seriously. And we've really, really appreciated his service over the years. It's a tough thing to have to go through the process. We try to make it as smooth as possible and give you as much information as possible. And again, anything we can do, we want to answer your questions and hope that you stay in the process and want to be considered. I make no decisions on who my bosses are. I'm only here to serve. So again, and you can also ask me anything that you would like. So thank you. I don't know, is Dr. Mackey still on the line? We might have lost him.
I don't see him on the line anymore, Paula.
Okay,
I think
we had some conflicts. And so I want to give one more opportunity. Trustee Kelly, is there anything you want to say in closing?
Thank you, Paula. No, I think Paula captured it, and on behalf of the group that made the presentations, I think they gave you a really good overview of the company and what would be expected of you as a trustee. This is about community service, to be honest with you. As the gentleman said a few moments ago, the pay is $2,000 a year. It was set incidentally at $2,000 a year in 1942 when the city bought CPS Energy. 80 years later, it's still $2,000 a year. We're a pretty frugal company. And so it's really about community service, but it is a great opportunity to serve the community, number one, and it is a great opportunity to work with one of the most outstanding and dedicated teams under the leadership of Paula and her 3,000 dedicated employees. They really, really care about this company and this city and this community. And so being able to sit on the board as kind of a volunteer and being a part of that team is really an honor. So you're about being a part of something that is really an outstanding part of this community and a tremendous company. So I congratulate you on the fact that you're interested in being a part of this company.
All right, with that, we want to thank you again for your interest, and for those of you that tuned on online, the deadline, I do want to remind you, is the end of this month, 5 o'clock on August 31st. So we're getting applications coming in, but we want everyone to apply who's interested. So thanks again, and have a wonderful evening. Be safe on your exit out of here and going home.